Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Tiger Talk today. I'm Jeremy Williams, Superintendent of Schools, and I'm joined today with Dion Caron, our Director of Business Services. Thank you for coming today, Dion.
Thanks for having me.
So we got a few things we're going to talk about today. Some things that maybe aren't as exciting for our public, but some important things to touch base, like our audit report we'll talk about a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about distance learning, and the exciting part, I think, is the construction update. We'll talk a little bit about how that's going. That's a big project at the schools right now. So, Dion, let's talk first about, I think, the biggest thing on everyone's mind is probably distance learning. We recently made the announcement that we're extending our distance learning into December at the schools for primary until December 7th and for the secondary schools until January 11th. So one of the big pieces of that distance learning piece is free meals that are available for families. Can you talk a little bit about that?
You bet. So we use Taher Food Service as our food company, and they've been really awesome through this whole process, starting back in March when we experienced the first distance learning, through the summer, doing some of the meal distribution, and then this fall, going back from hybrid when Westside went distance learning, now to full distance learning, and then hopefully we'll be going hybrid back at elementary with distance learning in secondary. So right now with when we're in full distance learning, we provide the grab and go meals at all of our schools between 11 o'clock and 1 p.m. available for anybody that's under the age of 18. Parents can pick it up, the student doesn't have to be with, and they're free.
Great. So just show up, grab the meal, and take it home for the kids. They don't have to be there. And with those meals, like what kinds of things might they get in that meal?
So we serve breakfast and lunch in the meal. Taher, again, does a really good job of trying to have a variety of different things. Each day we've introduced, and they did that this spring, introduced some frozen meals so they can heat those up so they actually have hot meals instead of just cold sandwiches and cold breakfasts. So they're really being creative and being conscious with the dollars spent too. But they're very creative to make the meals fun.
Great. So those are available at each of the school locations until December 7th. Then when the elementary schools open back up, they'll be just at the middle school and high school, correct?
So basically whatever school is, if they're in distance learning, we'll have grab and go bags available. If we go back hybrid on all schools, we'll have the grab and go bags available at the middle school like we did prior.
Great. So families can have access to those meals. It's an important thing to have available for families right now. So great. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the audit. So that audit was recently completed. The school board approved that at the last board meeting. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that process and kind of some of the findings that we had in the audit this year?
Yeah. So go through the full year with our budget. We do our revised budget, and we've got a great district office staff. That's a lot of them have been there for a few years, so they're very experienced in their positions. Russ Sano is a huge part when it comes to the audit, but everybody kind of takes part in it. We use Hoffman and Bropster for our audit process right now, and basically they come in for 3 or 4 days and they look through our accounts payable, our payroll, our accounts receivable, our coding and everything, just to make sure that we're doing everything right. Not very exciting, but it's a moving target every year with the funding we get, the codes we have to use. So we want to make sure we're doing things right. So we, although audit's kind of a bad word, we actually embrace it. So we can learn what we're doing wrong.
Important piece to find out.
Yeah.
I know one of the things they talked about with the audit this year were just there's so many things happening in the schools this year between the construction projects and the COVID closures and some refinancing and some things and all those different things that are taking place. I think maybe we can talk about some of those things first.
Yeah, so some of the highlights for the year, one thing that we're pretty proud of was the budget we had came within 0.2% of what actually came out. It's a $35 to $40 million budget, so to get that close was good. But like you said, there were a lot of moving targets this year than there have been in the past. We were given a safe school grant by MDE to do the entrances at Parkside or at the middle school in Westside. So that was part of that. And then we were very fortunate with the public to have passed our building referendum. And so we started the construction on the new school, elementary school, which we'll show pictures of that coming up. And then part of that also was an addition at Parkside We'll talk more about that coming up. And then doing the safety and security at the middle school, or at the high school, and at Parkside and Maytech, since we were fortunate enough to get the grant at middle school and Westside to make sure all of our schools have that safety and security when it comes to the entrance.
So something happening at all of the schools at the same
Right.
time. It was
Yep.
a quiet summer and fall for you.
Yeah, and then one last thing was, and we try to look out for the taxpayers as much as we can. We were able to refund one of our bonds and have a savings. I think it was a $300,000 savings, which then goes back to the taxpayers. It's a lesser amount that they have to pay in property tax when we're able to do that.
Great. So some additional things I know that I've had people ask me about, and some thing that was a change this year for us too is these CARES funds that related to some COVID things. You talk a little bit about kind of
Yep.
what the district got for CARES money and some things that we've done with some of that.
Yeah, so we're fortunate there through the whole pandemic and some of the additional expenditures that we're having to incur to be able to get some federal funding through the CARES funding. And there's a lot of different levels to that. There's some funds that we have to use before December 31st this year. And then there's some funds that we actually can use up until September of 2022, which is nice, not knowing how long this is going to last. But, part of that, as you know, we've got our meals that we're distributing. PPE is a big part of that. The expenses of that is really the number exceeds kind of what I had thought when it comes to masks, cleaning supplies, thermometers, and everything that we've done to ensure when the students and staff are in school that they're as safe as possible with the pandemic.
Noticed with that PPE around town, you go to almost any place in town, you see the Marshall masks around. So
Right.
you can tell those are distributed and they're being well used in our communities. So
Yeah, and we've gotten, a lot of thank yous for that. And fortunately, we're given the CARES Act funds to be able to do that. But, we've got a lot of staff and some students that, it's important that we're able to give them that to have on hand. And also our disposable masks. So if a student shows up without a mask, we're able to give them a mask for the day. So nobody has to try and find out how to get by through the day.
nobody's without.
Yeah.
One of the things we maybe haven't touched on yet that CARES funding helped with too is some of this additional cleaning. You hear about all the deep cleaning and such taking place in the schools. And can you talk just a little bit about that too?
Yeah, so part of that is, and our custodial staff has been excellent at this, is going around and cleaning the touch points. Our other staff has been very accommodating with cleaning their desks and tables when they can. But yeah, there's a lot of cleaning supplies. We've purchased some dividers to put between desks if we couldn't accommodate the 6 feet. There's just a whole bunch of different cleaning supplies that we wanted to make sure that and I think we did a nice job this fall, make sure we're ahead of things, because getting the PPE is difficult. Things are out 2 to 3 months. So the companies we work with have done a nice job getting that for us on time.
Right. And kudos to you being on top and prepared enough to make sure we have it in time when we need it too. So you've done a really nice job keeping up with that for everybody. So great. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about kind of enrollment and how that played a role with the audit and some expenses and such that we learned about in that process.
So yeah, enrollment drives a majority of our revenue, so we really count on that, and the pandemic's kind of given us an up and down in that, but feel like once we're through this, it'll go back to where we were. And as you know, our enrollment was rising quite a bit over the last 5 to 7 years, and that was the purpose of us needing the additional room at the new elementary. And I think that we'll return to that. I don't know that it's declined a lot as much as it's steadied off, but the enrollment increase was still there from when we originally had. Fortunate enough over the last couple of years for legislature to give us that 2% increase on our general funding. We'll see how this spring goes. It's the budget year again. Yeah, and we have some other things happening besides that. We've got our facility maintenance. We just sold some bonds on that to update our indoor air quality at Parkside and at the middle school, which is very important. keep our buildings up to date. We found the public really had interest in that when we asked them for a new building. They want to make sure our existing buildings, we're doing the best we can to keep those up to date.
Right.
Yeah, and our enrollment, as you can see, it's kept a steady increase. Our VPK program has done very well. We're hoping that legislature continues to fund that because it's really an important part to Marshall Public Schools. Start them at that 4-year-old and keep them in our system through graduation.
Right. And that VPK, just for the listeners, that's the early childhood programming and some at no additional charge for families, right? It's completely
Correct.
covered for families to attend preschool. So it's been a great addition to our
Yeah,
district, and
it really
part of the
is.
need we had for that additional space at Parkside to have room to bring all those kids in. And
Yeah, and consolidate it all into one area, which will be great next fall.
great, yeah, great. I know the next few slides in your presentation, you got some additional details about the audit. I'll just kind of go through. all
Yeah,
those things.
so as you can see, our general fund, we've had a little hit on our deficit spending. We had a decrease in our general fund and our cash balance. We expected that. It was budgeted in. We actually are forecasting that for next year also. So it's something that we've had a lot of conversations on, and we'll have to be strategic on how to handle that so that doesn't continue. But it kind of gives you a visual there of how our general fund has gone. Some of our revenue sources just gives a layout. Majority of our revenue sources come from the state, and then we also get federal, local, and just kind of point out, and we'll be presenting on December 7th, our Truth in Taxation presentation that kind of goes more into the property tax and everything. But as you can see, only about 8% of our revenue comes from property taxes.
Right.
It's just another slide that shows where that revenue comes in. Like I said, most of it comes in from our state. Our expenditures, as you know, being in this business of teaching students, a majority of our 85% of our expenditures come from salary and benefits, because that's the majority of our expenditures is our employees, our staff, and being able to teach the students. And then part of that goes to purchase services and, again, supplies and materials to keep our buildings up.
And that's where those care funds were so important, because there isn't a lot of extra money in the budget for those things. So this
Right.
helped cover that extra piece, because most of our money does go right directly to staffing, and we didn't reduce any staffing through this COVID time.
Yeah, we were very fortunate to keep staffing and the hours that were going to be assigned. And like you said, I mean, we would have taken quite a big hit if we had to have those additional expenditures out of our general fund without the extra revenue. So
To be able to provide that same level of education for our kids, even though it looks different this year with so much of it being in distance learning and
Yeah.
hybrid models and that sort of thing. So
and keeping it as safe as we can.
right.
Yep. Just a couple other highlights on our audit. We've got, besides our general fund, we've got our food service fund. We were able to increase that food service fund by $186,000. A lot of that had to do with the federal funding for the distance learning, the grab-and-go meals. So we're fortunate to have that over the summer. Community services, that one was a little tricky too with distance learning and everything. We had our revenue we were able to keep kind of steady, but some of the expenditures dropped down because we weren't able to have some of the classes during that time. So we're fortunate to have that increase, about $145,000 in the community service fund. And then, as we talked about, our construction fund, $26 million. That's a one-time for the new elementary, and that includes the Parkside High School Maytech safety enhancements in addition.
Sure.
And then our debt service just decreased $32,000, and that was primarily just from the refunding of that one bond. We have to pay the premium on that. But we were able to, our OPEB debt service, we're able to pay that off. So on our levy, that's actually zeroed out. So that helps the taxpayers out. And we had about $25,000 left over that we transferred over to our debt service fund. So somewhat equaled that out.
Yep.
And that just talks a little bit about our OPEB trust fund. That's to help pay for some of the severance pay. We have that in a separate fund.
Yep. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about construction then. So a couple projects going on right now, still going on. So that you talked about some work at the high school and Maytech, and that was some safety and security things with secure entrances and cameras and buzzers and
Yep.
all those things at the doors. So that pretty much is done at this point.
Yeah, so all locations should have their safety and security. With COVID going on, some of that, we're trying to still have it in place, but we also want doors open so there's not those touch points. It's kind of a catch-20 on that one, but it's really consistent throughout the district now. So when you come into a building, you'll have to buzz in and be let in let them know why you're going to be there. Come in, and then once we're past the pandemic, we have a visitor management system in place where you'll check in, put your name in, get a badge.
Once we're able to let visitors back in the building.
Right.
So, yep.
So we're all set for it. We just have to get to that point.
Right. I know middle school, I saw some work going on there this summer. There was some roofing projects there. That's all completed.
Yep.
The more exciting things, the things that are going on right now are the Southview Elementary for certain. So why don't we talk about that a little bit?
You bet.
I know we've got some pictures we can pull up and show and just kind of.
Yeah. And just to touch on, too, what you had said, like I had mentioned before, the public really wants to make sure we're keeping our buildings up to date. Parkside, we had our carpet project.
Mm-hmm.
So Parkside, after 30 years, has new carpet throughout the building. There were sections of Parkside roof that were replaced. Middle school roofs are all up to date. So all of our roofing is up to date for the next 5 to 6 years. And then our high school that is going to be approaching 20 years old.
The new high school, it's just not
Yep.
new anymore.
Exactly. We'll have to look at that. But yeah, we've got some exciting things. And thanks to Studio One, they provided us some drone overview pictures, which really give a great shot of Southview itself and the land around it.
Yeah, I love these shots with the drones that they were able to take so we can see the entire site and how that building really sits in there. And you drive by and you see a little glimpse of this, but you think about the location of Southview, and it's kind of a unique spot where it's got frontage on a couple roads and right next to the middle school there. So I see it kind of sitting on an angle there. It looks like it kind of matches up to the middle school, and really trying to take advantage of all those different sides of making those all kind of attractive sides on the building, if you will.
Yeah, it's a good thing to point out. People probably wonder why we angled it that way, and it actually was to line up with middle school, so it was in the same direction as that building.
Right. I know we had discussions as we were looking at that. You see in this first picture you've got up some like sidewalk running between and such, so we can share some of those common spaces that we're not, like the theater, for example, that exists at the middle school that won't exist at Southview, but that line up and have those sidewalks there, even, to share those common spaces. And I think about even dropping kids off. When this open this new school, be able to drop kids at one site and easily walk to the next site to try and save some of that congestion, maybe with drop-offs and such in the mornings.
Yeah, it was a great addition, and I also look at it just from a community standpoint of we've got great bike trails in town, and we're redoing the sidewalk over on Southview. It's going to be this nice 8-foot sidewalk. I'm very excited about it. That will be part of the off-road bike path. And this would be a great opportunity to bike around the school and go over by the middle school. We've got some other trail things we're working on with the city, but we'll talk about that at a different time. But
yeah. And you think about the age of the kids who are going to be at this school. They're at that age when it's safe for them to start riding bikes to school. So having those extra things in place will make a big difference when we open up and they start coming in and enjoying the facilities. So.
Yeah, it's very true. If you drive by West Side, which 3rd and 4th grade will be attending this with 2nd graders, a lot of kids like to ride their bike at that age. So
right.
It'll be very important to address the safe routes to school, and this I think will help with that.
Great. So this next shot, I like this one too. We're looking right at the front of the building here, right?
Yep. So they haven't added the windows yet. This will, right where the crane is, it shows where the entrance will be. The other open area is the cafeteria. And then the back side there to the right is our kitchen and our maintenance. We'll talk about the other side when we flip around. Another picture here that gives a nice shot shows where the classrooms, so the right side, the lower level there is the offices and a couple of our sped ed special education rooms. Mm-hmm. And then the left is where our classrooms actually will be, upper and lower.
Two-story wing is kind of the classroom section, yeah. Great. This next shot, I really like this one too. So what is it we're looking at here?
This is would be the view off of Southview. And like you had said, this building really has three sides to it. The entrance, this is going to be where the library is going to be. Huge window. I think we're all excited to see what that's going to look like when it's finished. So it'll have an open area. There will be a door. It's a secure door, but it'll be a door out to a cement patio or cement block that teacher can bring their kids out. And then that'll be a grass area in the front there. But it should really have a nice look to it.
It's a nice way to bring some of that outside light and natural lighting into the building, and for kids to be able to connect with some outside spaces at the same time. And
Yep.
yeah, great.
So this just gives another view of that, gives a nice view of the roof. And then you can see that part that sticks out on the top, and that's going to be a glass opening too. Like you said, it's going to bring in some nice sunlight into the building there.
Right, hit that in as many of those classroom areas as we can. So I know you mentioned the roof. It seems to be what they're working on right now in that building. Certainly we had that little blast of winter a couple weeks ago that made us a little scared, but it looks like they're hitting that pretty hard right now when we got this nice weather again. How's that coming?
It's coming well. We had our meeting we have a weekly construction meeting, and yesterday we had a meeting with Pesca Construction who's doing the project, and they've done a nice job. They're a company that doesn't just sit around and let the snow melt. They actually had snow blowers on the roof to get rid of some of the snow. We're lucky it wasn't a lot, but so we're fortunate to have the metal decking up on the roof. They'll actually, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, start to bring some of the other materials up on the roof. And as you can see inside the library there, that's actually, I think about a week and a half ago, they're actually forming it for the cement, and the foundation's actually poured now on that area A there. So it's pretty exciting too. They'll start putting up the steel studs, and we'll start to see things actually form inside the building.
We're starting to be able to feel those classrooms and such inside, so that's great. We've got a couple pictures of the other side of the building here too. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so where you see them grading the dirt there, we're going to have two sides, two lots actually to the building. The one side that we're looking at the front here, or the back, whichever way you want to look at it, is the bus route or the bus loop. This is where the buses will come in and drop kids off. And then during the day, it'll actually be a play area with basketball hoops, a lot like West Side used to be.
Yep.
And then we also have classrooms that is showing. And then on the back side is our gymnasium, which has turned out very well too. We're fortunate enough to get a full-size gymnasium, basketball with a couple of JV courts on the width of it. So that's it's exciting to see come together also.
That'd be a huge addition for the community too. You think about the gym space, and in a typical year, how many things we have going on in the space we need, and the current West Side gym just doesn't work for a lot of things we need. So it's not able to be used for a lot of things where this gym will be.
Yep.
This will be busy all the time. So,
like you pointed out, the sidewalk that goes from building to building, if we have a basketball tournament or volleyball tournament, something inside, we'll be able to use the middle school and Southview, and we'll have that path that goes back and forth for people.
Looks great. All right, let's move on and talk about Parkside a little bit. So certainly the additions coming together almost look like it's always been there now on the front. It matches, and it took us a while to get that point, but it's nice to see that now. So when I walk up to this new front door, what am I walking into there? What is that?
Yeah, we'll have some picture of the inside. Kind of have our internal joke about the brick. I think they did a really nice job matching the brick up with the existing building as close as possible. But so we've got it. This is our new early childhood edition. You can see the side of the building there. It gives a look of what the actual edition looks like. It's hanging out there.
So we had 3 classrooms and an office space, like a play area and stuff in there, and then that whole end will eventually become early childhood, right?
Yeah, we'll have 6 classrooms for early childhood, it's very exciting to have it all in one place. This is a shot of the player area. Again, these shots are pretty early in it. We're moving in some furniture, and it'll all come together. Studio One's going to be doing a nice job for us. We'll be doing a walkthrough video that we'll be able to share on our website and the public to give them another shot of this here.
Right. I know we talked about wanting to do an open house and get people in and walk them through and show it to them. We can't do that right now with COVID, so we'll get a virtual open house together of this location for now, so people can kind of see it, and then do the same kind of thing at Southview probably when we get that to the point we get through there a little bit better too. So
Yeah, so this is the play area, and the new addition, we were able to add 3 classrooms to it and an office space for early childhood. This is just a snapshot of one of the classrooms. Again, we're moving furniture in today, so it'll look a lot different, but we were able to get some nice casework put in, storage for the teachers. There's a sink in each room, and then carpet and linoleum. This is one shot. This isn't actually the furniture that we're using, but with hybrid, Parkside was able to move into this room as one of their EL rooms to try and get a little more space, a little more room. So we moved some furniture in, but at least it gives you kind of an idea of what the room will look like. So very excited about that. The windows are a nice size, should give us a lot of nice sunlight coming in those.
yeah, looks great. All right, well, I think that's kind of what we had to share with everyone today. So Dion, I thank you for coming and joining us today and walking us through all these things that are going on. You've certainly been busy and you're doing a great job to get all this done and put this all together for our community.
Thank
so
you.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you everyone for listening today.